Moses was born during a time when Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, ordered the death of all male Hebrew infants to control the growing Israelite population. His mother Jochebed hid him for 3 months and then placed him in a waterproof basket on the Nile River. Pharaoh's daughter discovered the basket and, moved with compassion, decided to adopt him. Moses grew up in the Egyptian palace, unaware of his true heritage. As an adult, Moses became aware of his Hebrew roots and witnessed the harsh treatment of his people. One day he saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave and killed the Egyptian. In a moment of anger, fearing for his life, Moses fled to Midian, where he lived as a shepherd for 40 years. One day, while tending sheep, Moses encountered a burning bush on Mount Horeb. God spoke to him from the bush, telling him to return to Egypt and free the Israelites from slavery. Moses hesitated, but was assured that God would be with him. God revealed his name as I Am, and sent Moses back to confront Pharaoh. Returned to Egypt and the plagues. Moses, with his brother Aaron, went to Pharaoh and demanded that he let the Israelites go. Pharaoh refused, and this led to the famous series of 10 plagues. Water turned to blood, the Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt, turned to blood, killing fish and making the water undrinkable. Frogs swarmed the land, filling homes and fields. Gnats, the dust of the earth, turned to gnats, infesting both people and animals. Flies, a swarm of flies covered the land, causing chaos and discomfort. Livestock disease, a plague, killed the Egyptian cattle and livestock, but the Israelites' animals remained unharmed. Painful boils and sores broke out on the Egyptians and their animals. Hail and fire, a hailstorm accompanied by fire, struck Egypt, destroying crops and trees. A massive swarm of locusts devoured the remaining crops. Darkness, a thick darkness, covered Egypt for 3 days, but the Israelites had light in their dwellings. Death of the firstborn. In the final and most devastating plague, every firstborn in Egypt died, from the Pharaoh's son to the lowest servant. The Israelites were spared because they marked their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, a practice that became known as the Passover. After the 10th plague, Pharaoh finally relented and allowed the Israelites to leave Egypt. The Exodus of miracles. Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, and they began their journey to the promised land. Pharaoh, however, changed his mind and pursued them with his army, trapping them at the Red Sea. At this moment of crisis, God performed a miracle. Moses stretched out his staff, and the waters of the Red Sea parted, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry land. When Pharaoh's army followed, the waters returned and found them. In the wilderness, God provided miraculous sustenance for the Israelites. Manna from heaven, each morning a bread-like substance appeared. When the Israelites were thirsty, God instructed Moses to strike a rock, and water poured forth to quench their thirst. Guidance through a cloud and fire. During the day, God led them with a cloud, and at night, a pillar of fire guided them. The 10 Commandments and Covenant were camped at Mount Sinai. Moses ascended the mountain, where God gave him the 10 Commandments and other laws for the people of Israel. This covenant was a crucial moment in the formation of the Israelites as a people set apart by God. While Moses was on the mountain for 40 days and nights, the people grew impatient and fashioned a golden calf to worship. When Moses returned, he was enraged and broke the tablets in anger. After interceding for the people, Moses returned to the mountain to receive new tablets. The journey and challenges in the wilderness. The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, during which Moses faced numerous challenges. The people often complained about food, water, and their harsh conditions, but God continued to provide for them during this time. Moses also sent 12 spies into the promised land. 10 came back with a fearful report, but 2, Joshua and Caleb, encouraged the people to trust in God. Because of their lack of faith, the Israelites were condemned to wander for 40 years, until the disbelieving generation passed away. Moses also encountered moments of frustration, such as when he struck a rock to bring forth water instead of speaking to it, as God had commanded. For this act of disobedience, God told Moses that he would not enter the promised land. Moses' final days in passing, as Moses' life drew to a close, God took him up to Mount Nebo, overlooking the land of Canaan, the promised land. Moses was allowed to see the land, but was not permitted to enter it. He died there at the age Joshua, who would lead the Israelites into the promised land. Moses' death marked the end of an era, but his legacy as the great lawgiver and prophet of Israel endured, and the Israelites would remember his leadership, faith, and the miracles that God performed through him for generations to come. Moses' life and leadership were foundational to the identity of Israel, and his story is one of profound faith, obedience, and God's miraculous intervention in history.